Finally, my reflections on Bitcoin 2023 and how the politicians and candidates did from the stage in Miami. This week on QuickBits. Hey everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Effect Studios. I'm Nate Martin, and on this channel we talk about Bitcoin and its effects on politics, society, and economics. While other crypto projects make the news and create interest in the markets, the Bitcoin Effect focuses on Bitcoin specifically, its development, how it affects regulation and policy decisions, and why it has drawn more and more people to ask the question, what makes sound money? Stick around a while and let me know in the comments what you'd like us to cover in future videos. A couple of weeks ago, I headed down to Miami Beach to attend Bitcoin 2023. Got to meet and connect with some great people. Gary, Nico, Mel, Huddle Tarantula, and Rockstar. Shout out to you guys. It was fun to team up with you guys at the Bitcoin games. Darren and Sue. Hey, it was great to spend time with you guys and get to know you better. Now, I only attended as general admission. I didn't have a media pass, so I got a spectator's view of the conference. Now, I knew the talks were going to be online, so I spent most of my time in the expo hall meeting with some of the authors and vendors on the floor. Shout out to Bitcoin 2023. I attended Bitcoin 2021 in Miami, and the food trucks were tucked way back to the side. There weren't that many of them, and you had to wait a long time in the heat. For Bitcoin 2023 at the conference center in Miami Beach, all of the food vendors were there in the expo hall, so it was a quick trip to get to any one of the numerous food vendors that were available, be able to sit down in the air conditioning and enjoy a meal while you were taking care of business at the expo hall or catching whatever talks that you wanted to. The vibe was kind of subdued, though. I thought that the main stage venue was a little bit too big for the number of people that were actually going to be there. I noticed that it seemed to be a lot of empty floor space, even when all of the chairs were filled. That were allocated to be in front of the main stage. I know that there were probably 3 or 4 different stages there at the conference, and it made it difficult to try to catch all of the talks that you might have wanted to catch, which is another good reason why putting it online so that you can catch the talks after you've gotten home, one after the other, and doing the homework basically, was a good idea from Bitcoin 2023. I know I caught a lot of talks after I got home, so shout out to them for that. Now, best speech from a politician or candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy, hands down. His delivery of substance and understanding of the evils we face with the current financial system and how Bitcoin is the foundation upon which we're to face them, it was the most well-delivered message of the weekend from either a candidate or a politician.
We can complain about the symptoms all we want. We're not going to address the cancer until we address the root cause itself. And the root cause of a lot of our economic stagnation and then the cultural stagnation that comes along with it is actually the abuse of fiat money itself.
Next, Tulsi Gabbard, who reminded us of the vision of the founders of this country and how bit by bit we have been blinded to the virtues and responsibilities necessary that are attached to that vision.
The fact that we are so limited already in our ability to use cash is evidence of where this path leads. The fact that we are seeing what's happening in Europe with France and Italy, you spend over €1,000 in France, you are suspect and possibly could be investigated. It's not an imagination about where this road heads. Once we give up our economic autonomy, we give up our freedom. And that's why when you look at any conversation in Washington around Bitcoin, the first thing you recognize is most of them don't even know what they're talking about. But they know enough to know that they shouldn't like it because it will undermine their ability to control us. There's a reason the founders chose the words, "we the people." There's a reason why they spoke of a self-governed nation. Our voices, our votes, our daily choice to exercise our own freedoms is the best way to fight against this oppression. It's the best way to fight against those who seek to take our freedoms away.
Now, unfortunately, I was most disappointed with Senator Lummis, who's generally a favorite at the Bitcoin stage. She updated us on the goings-on on Capitol Hill, but in such a fashion that I lost track of everything that was going on because the letters and the abbreviations and how things go through committees, it was over my head because I don't have my finger on the pulse of what goes on Capitol Hill. So I guess I got lost in that talk. She also made carefully sure to include the phrase "and other cryptocurrencies," as though there are negotiations with other protocols that she didn't want to undermine. Now, missing from her chat with the moderator, who was painfully starstruck and conducted the interview with so much flattery, I was afraid she might ask the senator out on a date, was a hope and fighting spirit for freedom money. What about RFK? Well, his talking points, I think, could have been written by ChatGPT for our benefit.
Americans have come to distrust the government, including the way that it has manipulated our money supply to benefit the very rich and to prosecute endless wars. Bitcoin is a neutral currency, beyond the ability of government or indeed any authority to manipulate. In our current system, nearly all of our transactions are transparent, all right. They're transparent to government and corporations, but their machinations and activities are not transparent to us. They are opaque. The public ledger of Bitcoin makes every transaction transparent to everyone. It might therefore be a harbinger of a future in which the government is transparent to the people, and that would be democracy.
Now, as far as his environmentalism is concerned, I later heard him in a recent Twitter space spewing off statistics on the cost per megawatt comparisons between nuclear and other forms of energy production, which were simply a reflection of a stat known as levelized cost of energy, or LCOE, which fails to take into account numerous variables, including land use and imposed costs. Those imposed costs mean the cost of having a backup production resource when there's not enough wind or sunlight to produce adequate electricity to meet demand. Now, he also failed to mention that when comparing the LCOEs of existing resources, nuclear actually comes out the cheapest when taking imposed costs into account. So his being against nuclear power and his polished expert gaslighting, you add that to the specter of a possible Supreme Court vacancy or two in the next 5 years, yeah, I got to hit the brakes hard as to who this environmentalist would appoint to the court. Sorry, but it's a hard pass for me on RFK. My favorite panel of the conference was Global Financial System versus Bitcoin. No coding, no ordinals, no NFTs or BRC20 talk, just reasonable discussion. First, I want to applaud the acknowledgement of Matthew Pines that for now, we have to interact with the legacy system and the governing bodies that control it. Well, that means conversations with legislators and fighting on the front lines against policies that would implement choke points and hindrances to mining and using Bitcoin. I'll leave you with one highlight from the conference that gives a great synopsis of what Bitcoin is and why it's so revolutionary and mind-jarring to the financial communities and regulators. Here's Jack Mullers.
There are two things that I'm aware of in life that are definitively scarce. Is one, my time on this planet, is I will die someday, and that's one of the only things, as of right now, I can absolutely guarantee. And the only other thing is that there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. And so the only thing that I mentally compartmentalize on how to reference, how to price this thing, is how much I value my life. And it's why I take care of my body, and it's why I build relationships that I love, and it's why I do the things I do, and to try and think about how to then carry that level of energy and finite capability into a monetary instrument. I don't know how the world's going to price it, and it's going to be complicated, and it's going to be volatile, and sometimes it's going to be war-esque because there are nation states involved. But I mean, I couldn't be more bullish under that pretense. For everything else in your life, guys, there will be more supply if there's enough demand. There could be all the demand in the world, and nobody can create more Bitcoin in the same way that you can't live forever.
Hey, if you've enjoyed the content, make sure to leave me a like and subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment as to what other things you would like us to cover here on the Bitcoin Effect. This has been QuickBits. I'm Nate Martin. I hope to see you again next time.